Welcome back to Walsall Fan TV, the joy and the pain. We are suffering the pain, but other teams suffer it as well. Today, we're talking to Lee Rooney. Lee is from the Brunton Bugle and Carlisle Fan. Having enjoyed a superb promotion, beating Stockport in the playoffs. League One proved a bit of a challenge, and welcome back to League Two. How you doing, Lee?
Yeah, not too bad. It was an interesting experience in League One last season, obviously, after the drama and excitement of winning the playoff final against Stockport. But, as I'm sure you'll get on to, things that have happened off the field last season have been far more important than what happened on it. So as much as it was a bit of a disaster going down, the club was taken over halfway through last season, and the new owners, the investment they've put in so far has been phenomenal. So yeah, the difference in terms of things off the field is so much more positive now that actually, even though we've come down as one of the worst League One sides ever, there's still quite a level of positivity around the club.
Okay. Walsall had a takeover and everybody thought everything was going to be fine, but they've the Travella group so far they've sorted a lot of things out. They've sorted the purchase of the ground, the land, the freehold, effectively. So that gives us a firmer footing. And they've done some good tidying stuff, sort of getting the supporters club, sort of like the Saddlers Club thing up and running. But other than that, I think they're forgetting about the team. Seems like your guys have come in with a lot more money, I guess.
Well, yes, I'll give you the background. So basically, our club has been owned by basically 4 local businessmen, or 3 local businessmen, I should say, for the past, I think since 2008, I think it was, when Fred Story sold the club to them. And they're good people, you know, they want the best for the club, but they just haven't got the money or the sort of drive. And, you know, there were a lot of sort of greyer older men, and sadly, one of them, Andrew Jenkins, who, you know, personally had put so much money into the club down the years to keep us running, passed away this summer. He was one of the owners who sold halfway through last season, and they'd been accused for years of just holding on to the club and you know, not doing the right thing and selling it. But what they were doing, they were trying to find the right person. And in the Piatic family from Florida, from Jacksonville, Florida, they probably have found, we think at least, early signs at least show it, because they own a so it's a family. You've got Tom Senior and Patty, husband and wife, and then their 2 kids, Jenna and Tom the second, and their husbands and wives as well are part of it. So the 6 of them effectively own the club. I think it's the mother and father own it, but they wanted directors as well. So we've got some really young blood in there as well now, which is good.
Are they still living in America, or are they living
Yeah. Tom and Patty have bought a house in Carlisle now, so they can, when they come over, they can stay rather than staying in hotels. There's more commitment to it, so they've constantly got a couple of people coming over and back, because they run a business in America called Magellan Logistics, which is basically it's a logistics company that it basically organises, I think, lots of smaller haulage companies that deliver for the big firms, like, you know, your Walmart and stuff like that. Yeah. And their turnover last year, I think, was pushing on $500 million, I think. And
nice sized company then.
Yeah, a good sized company, and you know they straight away said, "Coming, you know, we're going to invest money in it. We're not going to load the club with debt. You know, it's going to be capital that goes in." We had a debt that had been hanging over us to Edinburgh Woolen Mill. Well, it was Edinburgh Mill, then it was Pure Pay for like 4 or 5 years. That was just basically crippling the club, and no one wanted to take over because of that. They came in and bought that debt before they even took over the club. So they bought it, then they started to take over, and then they've written off that debt. So that debt doesn't exist anymore. But we're a debt-free club. The club owns the ground anyway, and there was a charge over the ground on that debt, and that's gone obviously now. So what they've come in and done, I mean, they invested a lot in January to try and keep us up, and it didn't work. That's been the brutal honest answer. But some good players came in, and you know, Harry Lewis and Luke Armstrong, to name 2, Harrison Neal, and Josh Feller. You know, they're all decent players that look like they're going to make an impact. But what they've done off the field is phenomenal. Have you been up to Brunton Park before?
I haven't. It's obviously it's a bit of a trek for us, but I mean, it's what I'm hoping to get to at some point.
Yeah, because anyone who's probably been up before, if your fans have been up before, you're always sat in the brand. Well, I say brand new. It's 25 years old now, though. Yeah, 27 years old. East stand, so it looks new compared against the rest of the ground, which is, you know, it's got character, but it's old and it's fallen down. But the problem with the East stand is it's never been finished. it's been a shell inside pretty much most of it. They've come in and they've spent £4 million this summer fitting it out with executive boxes, executive lounges, things like that. They've invested in a new fan zone behind the White Road and behind the goal. They put a disabled section in there. They put a brand new large screen in the fan zone behind the main stand, which was open during the Euros, so fans could go down, pay like £2 a ticket to go in, and some money went to charity. And that screen apparently was.
I saw some clips of that, Lee.
Yeah,
I saw some clips of that over the Euros. I was really impressed with that. Waterford put something on, but I mean, compared to what you guys did, I think it was very, very impressive.
And it really picked up as the tournament went on. So early on, you maybe get a few hundred or something, or maybe 500, 600, something like that. By the end, I think that the final, they had about over 2,000 in the fan zone watching it on the big screen for the final. Yeah. And it's like, it's things like that, just off the field stuff, like the dressing room. If you see some of the footage of our dressing room now, compared against what it used to be, it used to look like a sort of, I don't want to say like it was just basically benches and a few pegs, basically. It wasn't like a proper thing. They've got their own little cubby hole now, and locker all the players with their individual names above the squad numbers.
Kind of
well, apparently they went to Old Trafford just on like some sort of ground tour thing, the Partics, and they took one look at the dressing room and said, that's what we want at Carlisle. And within one summer, they've sorted it, and like they put their money where their mouth is. And off the pitch as well, obviously, in terms, on the pitch, they've invested in terms of signings as well, which I'm sure you'll come on to. But their communication as well has been first class. They've actually spoke to the fans. They've been involved, and it's sometimes you have to pinch yourself and say, like, is this for real? Have we actually got these owners after years of basically?
That's always the thing when you got particularly American owners. What's their intent? What's their deep intent?
They're huge sports fans. Like, they really are huge sports fans. So like Tom second, the son, he used to play for his college in Florida and stuff, and he's they're big into the American football. Magellan Logistics actually are like the official logistics partner of the Jacksonville Jaguars in the NFL, so they're heavily involved in them. They've been wanting to take over or get involved in a sports club for years, and they had a very long process of working out which club they wanted to take over. They had like a checklist of like, they need these key points, and basically when they looked at the things and the level they were looking at for a club, Carlisle comfortably came out top. And it's amazing, the fact that they've come in, and in the time they've been here, they've delivered so much. And they basically said, look, like I said, they're not going to load the club with debt. There's no intention to do that. They want the club to be successful, and they want every penny that comes from, the club makes to go back into the team. So early signs, you can never jump ahead with these things, but everything so far suggests that they say what they mean.
Yeah, I'm feeling a bit jealous, to be honest.
We've been jealous of clubs like that before for years, like Wrexham, with what's happened there with Reynolds and McElhenney. And the most annoying thing is I went to see a podcast recording with one of the guys who's involved with them, Humphrey Carr, and he admitted that Carlisle were one of the teams they looked at. But one of the issues they had with Carlisle is because the ground floods. They didn't, because they said Carlisle owned the ground, but the ground floods every year. And it's like, it doesn't flood every year. It's flooded like twice in the last 20 years, and there's new flood barriers there now. But anyway, that was kind of like one of those moments like, that could have been us. But I think actually, when you look at how much of a bit of a circus it is around them at times, having these owners instead is probably as best as you could get. Yeah.
I think the history of Carlisle is quite strong. Obviously, it's quite a big stadium. I think it's about 18,000 it holds.
Yeah.
1974-75, just before your time, they're in the top division briefly. Mm-hmm. So I know we've sort of had some troubles since over the years, but it's like, was it 21-22 season? You're on the brink, weren't you? And then managed to. That was Sims, the manager. I forget his name. A second.
Paul Simpson.
That's Sim. I've got Sims.
So, he was on loan. He was on loan at Walsall, wasn't he? Many years back,
that's it. Yeah. He played a couple of games for us. Paul Simpson's done a great job, and he saving you in that season, and then of course following season getting 5th in the league, and then going up through the playoffs. Absolutely fantastic. There's a couple of players I want to talk about.
Yeah.
We got Joe Riley off you, and we thought you'd be really, really disappointed to lose Joe Riley. What was your view on him?
He was a bit of an enigma, really, at times. He played in midfield under Chris Beecher, who's now playing under AFC Fylde. But he also, I think, under Simo, he played a bit of right wing back, which he'd played for when he was at Man United on the books there.
Yeah.
He just, I don't know. Like we brought him in after he'd had like years and years of horrendous injury issues. We brought him in and gave him a chance, and he didn't have too many injury problems with us. Actually, he wasn't too bad. He had a little spell out, I think, from what I remember. And I think there was kind of a little bit of annoyance because Simo got quite annoyed with him because he basically admitted he'd been talking to other clubs and sorted out a deal somewhere else, which was with you guys. Yeah. Simo never named him for this, but it was pretty obvious by the way, the hints that he dropped, that he meant Joe Riley. And I think that wound up Simo a bit. And for me, there was always a concern of like, when you sign him, I was like, he's been settled with us and playing regular games. If he goes to you now and he picks up a knock or something, he's out. How's he going to get his confidence back? And he's clearly got ability. He could hit a ball from distance well. I had a hell of a shot on him at times, and he could dribble. But it's just the injury issues of him, and I just kind of feel like he's probably never going to be quite there for a football league player because of that reason.
As you probably know, he had the same thing with us. He had a foot injury, and they didn't know what it was. It took him ages to work out he didn't even know what it was. They had everybody look at it, and I think it was like a heel spur or something on his foot. But then when we looked at his history and saw actually for his age, he hasn't played that many games.
No.
But we weren't aware when he came here that he was particularly injury prone. Maybe that's the old days. Walsall, you get the injury prone players, and I suppose he was one of them. It never really happened for him. Like when he eventually got fit, there wasn't really a place for him. I think he wanted to play him right wing back, but the rumour was that Joe Riley said he didn't want to play right wing back.
That was the same issue he had with us, basically. Simo had played him at right wing back for the because we needed a right wing back basically at times, and then he was even in and out of the team when he was playing in that position as well. And he just never quite had the impact. He was quite a frustrating one, and I think he was desperate. He said like, "Oh, you're not going to play him in midfield." That's one of the reasons he left, I think. But as it was, we had a midfield of Owen Moxon, Callum Guy, and Jordan Gibson, and Alfie McCalmont coming in as well. And he probably wouldn't have started many games for us in midfield anyway, so probably wasn't as much of a miss as he might have been.
It was the same for Walsall, really. We'd got quite a competitive midfield, and with him being quite a small guy, not particularly a bruiser, he was a bit lightweight in midfield, and he played a couple of games there, but sort of just looked off the pace, really, because we hadn't been playing regular game time. One player that we were particularly impressed with was Christian Dennis. He had a great season for you, didn't he? I was surprised he moved on. I know he's sort of getting on a bit, but...
Christian's an interesting one because he basically was brought in under Keith Millen when in his brief spell as manager. And Millen was basically sacked a few weeks later. And then Simo came back, obviously, and Christian came in. He only scored 2 goals that season, so he didn't really have that impact. The following season, as you mentioned, he got 20 goals. I think our first player to score 20 goals since, funny enough, Carl Hawley, an ex-Walsall player himself as well.
Yeah, that's another one we let go.
Yeah. So, Christian, he had a great season, brilliant season. 20 goals. He was in and out of the team in the second half of the season. To be fair, he wasn't involved as much, but he's a really clever player. He links the play really well. He's a great finisher. Gets in good positions to finish as well. But the problem with Christian was I think he would have been by then 32. I can't remember exactly how old, but he was into his 30s. And he wanted a 2-year deal, and we were only prepared to offer him a 1-year deal with an option based on appearances.
Yeah.
And look, he basically said to us, I think he said, look, I can get a move closer to home, and it's 2 years. I'm going to have to take that. And there was no hard feelings about it. It was more a case of, fair enough. Because we had Joe Garner as well again by that point. So we had an experienced striker in the squad. So there wasn't a kind of feeling, we need to get an experienced striker in if we lose him. So I think there was kind of a feeling like, you've been brilliant for us, top scorer in the season we went up, all the best. And you moved on, essentially. So it was one of those ones.
Would League One have been a step too far for him, you think?
I think he would have been a useful player to have. I think he really would have. And it's one of those ones, you look back with hindsight and think, well, maybe we should have kept him because I think he could have had that impact. But as it was, he's gone to Tranmere and he's actually barely played. I think under the manager before Atkins, he signed him, he was playing him on the right wing all the time. And I'm like, why are you playing him? He's not quick. He's quick over a couple of yards, and got a quick brain on him. But
this is the thing with different managers, that it's Simo, obviously, knew how to get the best out of him. One of our players, Danny Johnson, under Mike Flynn, had been very impressive. Scored 15 goals before January. Mansfield pulled him back. We got him at the end of the season. Yeah. Following season, Matt Sadler just hardly didn't play him effectively. We did score a lot more goals without him in the team, as strange as it sounds. Yeah. But when you're looking for a goal, he's a goal scorer. So it's a strange one, different managers and their thoughts. So who are you most impressed with signings-wise so far for you?
I mean, the obvious one to stand out is going to be Charlie Wyke, isn't he? You know, I think most clubs in our division took one look with probably a little bit of jealousy, which is a strange feeling for us because normally we're the ones looking at clubs going, "Oh, I wish we could have signed him." But for once, I think other clubs were looking in. I mean, especially Bradford fans, as much as they might like to claim they don't. I think they were particularly jealous that we managed to get him back and they couldn't get him back. Yeah, he's looked solid in pre-season. He's not scored probably as many goals as maybe we could hope, but overall the team's been a bit patchy in pre-season. We looked a lot better against Stockport yesterday. Really, I mean, it was a weak Stockport side, but we dominated the game from start to finish, basically, bar one mistake that gave them their goal. I feel like White can make a big impact. Once he gets a goal, I think he's going to go on a run and he's going to score loads. And set pieces wise, we look a lot stronger this season as well. The two wing backs we've signed, so that's one area we really needed to strengthen this summer. We've signed Cameron Harper from Inverness Caledonian Thistle, who was 21. I think he'd been their captain a couple of times as well. Played in the Scottish Cup final a couple of years ago against Celtic. Left wing back, he looks really good. He's getting up and down the pitch. His set piece delivery looks really excellent as well. And we also signed Archie Davis from Dundalk in the League of Ireland, who's originally was at Brighton. I think he's from down south. I think he was one of the best defenders in the League of Ireland last season. And the great advantage of signing him now is he's basically halfway the way through his League of Ireland season. Yeah, so we're getting a player who's going to be at full pelt for the very start. And actually, I think yesterday against Stockport, the first time we started to say, you know what, he was getting up and down that pitch so much. And that's been really encouraging. So those two definitely. But in defence as well, actually, and I'm going to don't want to name every single player we signed, but I think both Aaron Hayden and Terrell Thomas look really good signings. Terrell Thomas is one when we signed him, I was like, is he that kind of signing we need? He's a bit of a strange one, but actually he looks so commanding at the back. I'm really, really impressed with him. I think he looks a real leader in there too. So yeah, and if we talk about signings, getting John Mellish tied down in a longer 3-year deal is a really big bonus for us. He's such a massive.
Yeah, he's a good player for you, isn't he?
He's a massive player for us. You know, we play that back three, and he just has the license to get up and down the pitch from the left side of their centre backs. You know, and he will run all day. He's got so much energy, and he's got a bit of pace about him and a bit of strength. You know, so sometimes I'm not sure he knows what he's doing, but neither does the opposition. So that's a real bonus. But you know, he's a massive fans' favourite, and Wigan came in for him in the summer, tried to sign him for 100 grand. We basically told them where to go because we don't need to sell players anymore. If we sell players now, we sell them because it's the right deal for us, not because we're struggling for money and we need to get rid of a player. We go, actually, that deal works for us. Like Jack Aaron and we let him go to Burton because it was a deal that worked for us. We'd signed Cameron Harper and we thought, you know what, we've got Jack Robinson as a backup. We don't need to keep Jack necessarily, and if the offer's right, and Burton obviously gained a bit of money this summer with their takeover, came in, made an offer, and we went, yeah, okay, that'll do. So that's the situation we're in. It's much steadier than it used to be.
I don't want to play Carlisle this season. Can we not play you this season?
Well, it's weird because I was listening there to the guys from the not the top 20 podcast, and they've got us down to finish 13th. Below Barrow, which surprised me because Barrow had a bit of a turnover in the summer. You know, we think they might struggle a bit, and it's kind of like, okay, I can get it because I think a lot of people look and think, well, they've had an appalling season last year. It's not easy to turn those things around. Yeah. I totally get that, but what we've done is we've brought a lot of leaders into the team. We've got a lot of people who've been captains elsewhere, and Wyke has been captain in pre-season. Mellish has had the armband as well. Thomas and Hayden have both had the armband. Sim hasn't made his mind up yet. I think Josh Vella could be a captain as well. Callum Guy's a massive player for us, but he's been out injured for the last 9 months with a cruciate injury, and he's coming back in the next month or so, which is a massive plus for us because he could really add something different to our midfield. He's another one who could be a captain. So we've got a lot of leaders in that squad, and I think that's one of the reasons why I'm not as concerned about what happened last season, that these leaders can hopefully bring a new mentality into the team.
It's funny you say that. In the past, Walsall have done that and brought in a lot of leaders. and it's not got us to where we want to be. But where do you think Carlisle finished then? What kind of area are you thinking?
So we're recording our League Two season preview episode this evening, and I'm still sitting there. I'm sitting on the fence and having listened to other people's predictions of where we finished. Some people finished 8th, like 13th. I think we've got 4-4-2. I was like 5th or 6th. I tend to go with what 4-4-2 say. I think 5th or 6th. I think based on the current squad, that's where I'd have us. I think we've got enough to be a top 7 side.
Yeah.
But because of the budget we've got backing us, and the owners in terms of investment,
yeah,
and January
I'll give you a boost, couldn't it? Yeah.
January and actually the next month or so, we're a little bit short in midfield. We've got a few injuries in there. Ethan Robson's out for 12 weeks, which is really frustrating because he looked decent in pre-season.
Yeah.
Taylor Charters has picked up a knock, which he's sadly prone to do because he's a good player. And obviously, guys out. We've only really got 3 fit midfielders at the moment, so I think I'd be amazed if we didn't sign at least one this week.
Yeah.
And I think he's looking for someone a little bit more creative in there. So I think if we can get a couple more players in, I wouldn't be surprised if we did challenge for that top 3 places because we've got a really solid looking defence. And in attack with someone like Wyke and also, Luke Armstrong up there and Georgie Kelly beside him.
Luke Armstrong, he was the Harrogate guy, wasn't he?
Yes, he was, yeah. So he was meant to go to Wrexham for $500,000. They messed up the paperwork and he was stuck at Harrogate, which I think Harrogate were quite sympathetic to that because, his big money move's gone. So they sort of didn't pick him for a while, then put him in. And then I think come November, they're like, look, we're going to sell you at the end of this when the window opens. So we're not going to pick you now just to make sure you don't get injured, which I think he was like, fair enough. And then we sorted out that transfer at the start of December, basically, so he could come up and train with us. So he couldn't play, but he could basically be fit and ready to go in January. And he's found it tough because we were a poor side and we weren't really creating much last season, but he doesn't half run. He runs all day. So, we really like him. And I think with someone like Wyke there up alongside him to take a bit of the pressure off, hopefully we'll see the best of Luke this season.
Yeah, I think as far as Walsall are concerned, we're light on strikers. We've only got 2 strikers at the club. And Jamil Matt got a great history, but only scored 6 goals last season. Played, when you accumulate his minutes, played 20 games.
He's always been good against us, Jamil Matt. He always has a good game against us. So
yeah, I'm thinking he's not going to play a full season now. He's not going to play every minute of every game. Nowhere near. I don't think if we get 20 games out of him, I think we'll have done well. The other striker, Josh Gordon, he did very well for Barrow. Scored 15 goals for Barrow in the season. Got his move to Burton. Didn't work out at Burton. Played 18 games without scoring. Sent him back on loan to Walsall. And in 21 games, he just got 1 goal, 1 assist. He's just struggling for confidence, I think.
Yeah.
And at 29, he should be much better than he is, I think. And that's the only 2 strikers we've got at the minute. So that's we're very light there. Midfield wise, we've got plenty of coverage. We've got a youngster that's coming through that was out on loan last season, Ronan Mayer. He's looked very impressive. Jamie Jellis has also looked very good. We bought him from Tamworth in January. So that's good. And the back 3, we've got quite a young back 3. A couple of the old guard. One, Donovan Daniels, is injured. And Priestley Farquharson, that we acquired from Newport. He was in and out of the team last season through injuries. But the young players that we were sort of ended up playing at the back did far better. So I think defensively, I'm not over worried. Midfield is youthful again, but we've got potential. But we've just got now punch up front. So, of course, that puts pressure on the rest of the team. Last 2 pre-season games, we played a game in Ireland against Drogheda, and that was a very poor performance. And yesterday, we played at Solihull Moors, and Solihull Moors National League team looked outside, in fairness.
To be fair, we've played, before we played Stockport, our last 2 games were against Gateshead and Rochdale, and they both beat us. Rochdale was a bit tighter, but Gateshead played us off the park. We were awful. We had a really, really bad game. And then actually against Stockport, we were better against a weak Stockport side, but probably a confidence boost as much as anything.
maybe it's one of them. We sort of don't get carried away with pre-season results.
No, I never do.
But
There's no point.
we need that cutting edge up front. We need that cutting edge up front. We need that firepower. Because Isaac Hutchinson was a big player for us last season. Got 12 goals, 11 assists, and he's gone. So that's a big hole to fill. Yeah. Charlie Lakin did well for Sutton on loan last season. 18-21 he scored from January. So he's one there that's we're looking to, but I don't think he's going to be able to fill the void of Isaac Hutchinson.
Yeah.
So a lot of concerns at the minute. We got a fan chat tonight, and it'd be interesting to see what the other guys are thinking. But I'm a bit worried, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, for us, for the players we've lost, the only one who really when we looked at players who were out of contract at the end of last season, the only player we all looked at and thought, well, maybe he's worth keeping was Jordan Gibson. He's literally the only one. We looked through the whole list and we were like, maybe, but even him, we were touch and go because he had a decentish season when you look at his stats in League One, but he barely played second half of the season. There was a few issues off the field with him as well. He's gone to Doncaster. I'm sure he'll do all right there. To be honest, I was surprised he didn't go to ULOB because he's from round your way. I think he's from somewhere near Birmingham.
Jordan Gibson, I don't know him that well.
Yeah.
Tell me about him.
No, he was I think he started out in Rangers Academy. He had some time at Bradford. Then he went to Ireland, played for Sligo Rovers, where we got him from, and he basically played as sort of like a winger / attacking midfielder for us. He played in like the top of the midfield three quite often, and he's a good busy player. And he's got a good shot on him and stuff like that. But he just, I don't know, he's just frustrating sometimes. He gets frustrated and he doesn't get into the game as much. But he's got all the ability you could want. Really, really good player. But yeah, we decided not to. We didn't. I don't know if we kept this. In fact, the only player we kept was a really interesting one. It's a lad called Anton Dudik, who's a Ukrainian refugee. He's only 19, 20 years old. And basically he came over to the start of the war, I think, and he was on Shakhtar Donetsk's books back in the day. I think he's been on a books of a club in Poland, and he had a few trials around England. He played for our youth team, did all right. We signed him on a deal to the end of the season. He played a couple of times off the bench, and now we've signed him on a deal for 1 year just because he's basically a project. He'll go out on loan. He's injured his ankle, unfortunately, so missed all the pre-season. Once he's back fit, I think he's going to go out on loan to a non-league club for the first half of the season, see how he does. But that's a really interesting. It's a nice little story, and I think Simo's kind of like, look, the lad's been through a lot of crap. Let's give him a chance. He's not with the money we've got now. He's not an expensive signing in the slightest for us. Basically,
no, but we can afford when you've got a bit of money, you can afford to have some projects to play with, can't you?
Exactly. We've done that a few too many times in the past when we haven't had the money. Now we've got it. It's like, right, let's do it properly. So yeah,
I think you're definitely going to be up there, from what you're saying.
I'm an optimist. I'm a massive optimist. Some of our fans are slightly less optimistic, especially after those two games against Rochdale and Gateshead. But then Rochdale battered Salford 5-2 yesterday, and by all accounts deserved to batter them 5-2. So Rochdale might be a team to watch out for in the National League this season. They look quite decent, actually. Played some all right stuff. And Gateshead played some lovely stuff as well, so I wouldn't be surprised if they're right up there. So, yeah, it all depends on how we start. We have a fairly tough start when you look at it, really. I mean, Gillingham are a team.
I think it's the how you gel, isn't it? I guess.
Yeah, and Barrow as well. We've got the big derby game. That's at the start of the season, which actually I'm quite glad it's quite early on because I think they're probably trying to find their feet as well under a new manager. Yeah. But then we've got MK Dons and Tranmere and I think Bradford after that. So it's a run of tough fixtures. So
MK Dons beat, I think.
Yeah, but then again, I was looking at them and they've had a big turnover in their squad this summer. I was quite surprised. I thought, well, they finished fourth. I didn't think they would have had that much of a turnover, but they've actually lost quite a few, and they brought a load of new players in. So
maybe that'll help Walsall. Maybe that'll help Walsall because pretty much we've got the same team as last season.
Consistency can help.
Yeah, the players we had on loan last season that went back, we've acquired them all pretty much. Mel Farley's one that we had on loan that we were hoping to get, and that's not happened. He's a striker.
Yeah.
So that's the one that we've been sort of holding on for.
That's what we did last season. We signed all the players who we'd had on loan in the season we got promoted, and pretty much none of them worked out. And the only one who's probably worked out, the nearest thing to getting to work out, is Ben Barkley, who's been pretty solid, but he's had his injury issues. I mean, Alfie McCollman's already left to go to Australia. Who else did we sign? Jack Robinson was in and out of the team, and he's out injured until sometime in September. Yeah, we signed a lot of the players we'd had on loan, and then it just didn't quite work out with them. So sometimes it can, sometimes it can't.
Maybe the player that will surprise everybody for Walsall is Uncle Albert, 36-year-old Albert Adoma. They've signed him as a right wing back, but we might end up playing him up front again because, of course, he was very useful up front. And I think that's probably less running than a wing back, isn't it?
Well, it depends these days. You've got to do a lot of pressing, haven't you, as a striker? Really, you don't get many strikers who just stay there and the ball hits them. And he's still Luke Armstrong for us. He's 6'4", 6'5". Yeah. But the amount of running he does, you'd think he'd just be a big tag man up there, but he runs into the channels all day. Georgie Kelly the same. So it's not always the case now these days of strikers can just sit there and wait for the ball to come off them. Some of them still do, but it's a rarer occurrence, I think.
I think Carlisle are definitely on the way back up again, one way or another, with the support, the club support and that sort of thing. Good luck for the season. I say I'm normally really optimistic. I always I generally look at the positive side, but it's just I'm just feeling a bit down at the minute, waiting for some strikers to come in. Really, that's. But hey, how?
Once that first ball's kicked, you'll get excited though. You always do.
Well, I thought we'd sort out Solihull Moors yesterday, and that would cheer me up, but then it was not great. But as we say on the channel, the joy and the pain, and we both know what pain's like. And you've had a bit of joy recently, and we're just hoping we'll get some soon. That would be nice. Right then, cheers, Lee. Thanks for coming on.
No problem. Thanks, Simon.
Cheers, mate. Sorry.
Cheers.